Damn. Yeah, I ran out of memory. So anyway, I'll start over the video. Alright, this response video, that shlockofgod guy, shlockofgod, he's a real prick, and I'd appreciate it if you did block him. He really shouldn't have a right to comment because he's a cheater. I mean, he's doing this whole Photoshop bullshit, you know, arguing like somebody owes him something, and he's a rude, obnoxious motherfucking prick. It's just fucking bullshit. So anyway, I won't even get into it. But yeah, I'd appreciate it. Let me just say that. The fucker has earned, he provides no courtesy. I haven't attacked him personally. I haven't touched him in any way whatsoever. And so it's all on him. He's a weasel. I shouldn't have bothered with these response videos. He doesn't deserve them. He just deserves to be ridiculed as a fucking dickless cheater. And that's all he is. Intellectually dishonest as hell too. Alright, so the first argument in this video was somehow we haven't provided arguments you know, describing the connection between procreation and the existence of a new living thing, and the consequential connection between what happens to it and culpability on the part of the parents. It's just stupid. All kinds of analogies have been provided. So unravel those analogies. Is Dr. Frankenstein responsible for his monster? Would it be ethically appropriate to kill Mrs. Hitler while she was pregnant if you knew everything that was going to take place because of her procreation? The other ones have been brought up is rescue mission. You know, the fact that a fire truck can impose a heightened risk because it has a justification. There is a probability that they will serve a greater purpose. A greater need will be satisfied for the heightened risk. So it's a perfectly rational equation. And so, yeah. But what would be the culpability? Isn't there moral culpability or ethical culpability if you drive fast, heighten the risk, and there is no justifying reason for it, just selfishness? Unravel that. Drunk driving, same kind of analogy. It's a self-interest. We certainly have a right. There's certainly a connection between the action and a consequence. The line is clear. It's perfectly appropriate to have laws that prohibit people from imposing that heightened risk because there is no justifying rescue mission. There is no justifying reward. There's no justifying good served for the heightened risk imposed. So unravel those analogies. It's quite obvious. Okay, next he goes on about, he calls it gibberish, this idea that somebody should be accountable for their interactions with everything on this planet. And of course they're accountable. The game is knowledge. If you have knowledge of an impact, like I could stomp this butterfly or something, and if I knew it was a feeling organism and it would suffer, then it would be a willful act of harm. Certainly we can't be held legally liable for accidents or things we didn't know would happen. But when we have foreknowledge, when we have informed knowledge of a risk, and we assign that risk on somebody else, you have to be responsible for that. And you can be held responsible for that. The fact of the matter is, even if you don't hold somebody responsible, the end result is you can criticize their life and say it was an unproductive life. Maybe they had good intentions, but the fact is the practical effect of their influence was destructive. That's just a fact. It's not about assigning punishment. It's about just telling the truth. And the truth is you have an impact on the world around you. Would you call the theme of the movie It's a Wonderful Life gibberish? I mean, it perfectly illustrates this idea that you can think your life is shit and you were vitally important, or you can think your life is great and it was in fact a piece of shit because of the impact you had on others. There's only two things you impact. There is your conscious welfare, what you feel in your life, and the feelings you impose on others. And that's what you measure the value of your life by. Did you create more suffering or eliminate more suffering? Not complicated. There is a truth. We just can't know every element of it. But we can know that it's dumb as fuck to think drunk driving is a good idea. And it's dumb as fuck to think that imposing life on some new victim to serve no purpose but your own selfish desire is an accomplishment. It's not. It's a burden. It's a selfish imposition, clearly and completely. The unborn are not getting rescued from hell. If you were saving them from hell, you could maybe justify the risk you're assigning, but you're not doing that. You're creating a liability, period. How you doing? So you have to take responsibility for that. All right. Can prove that causes are responsible for effects. I mean, this is just so stupid. I gave analogies, kicking a ball, whatever. I mean, everything you do has an effect, and the only thing that creates a right to berate or insult or even imprison somebody if necessary is the amount of knowledge and forethought. Was the act reckless and negligent? Was it deliberately malicious? Was it just so grossly selfish that it's unacceptable in our society? That's the equation. It's not that complicated. A child molester is allowed to desire children. He's just not allowed to abuse children. Period. Not complicated. He knows it's an abuse. He knows it's a taking. If he decides to take, he's guilty. Period. It really, this whole idea that there's some sort of defense for the human race, like they somehow don't know that, or they think they have superpowers and their kid's not going to be born with a crippling disability, is absolute nonsense. Let's see. Gross something to the something risk. Yeah, well, whatever. But the point is we know what the averages are. We know what the net effect is. And if you're claiming special powers, then maybe you ought to qualify that and explain where you got them from. There's, reasonable expectations. It's not a reasonable expectation to think you're immune to creating a child who might suffer incredibly. Let's see. And you'll be imposing on it, no doubt about it. Then he slid this free will argument in, which was just so bogus, because I pointed out that people choose to have kids, and I said choose and did air quotes, and he ignored all of that part, of course. He didn't explain that I qualified the use of the word choose, so it just makes him out more of a weasel. The fact is, we can label, I never use the word morality, so he keeps using the word, keeps implying that I'm making a moral statement when I'm not doing that. I've always talked about ethical equations, and I've always talked about concepts like brokenness. That's all there is. There's broken logic, and they're guilty of broken logic. And the question is what's acceptably broken? You're unacceptably broken when you take from others to serve your own selfish desires. That's unacceptably broken logic. You have to do better than that. It's unacceptably broken to think you can make a nuclear power plant out of recycled soda bottles. It's just not acceptable. It's illogical. The risk is too high, and the reward would be nil. And that's the game again. It's back to this. The whole point is nothing needs there's no need to create this new individual. The need resides in the individual who perpetuates, who procreates. And so it's a completely selfish act, and selfish acts that impose on others have to have a redeeming justification. There has to be something else accomplished, or it's null void, it's a non-starter. You're just not allowed to do something that serves your interest at somebody else's expense. You gotta do better than that. So it was really, really bogus to bring that up. It's about broken logic, and that's all it is. Serial killers are guilty because they have this broken logic that tells them their satisfaction of their perversion is more important than the welfare of the victims they torture. It's just completely broken. It's unacceptably broken. That's why we throw them in a cage. It's because it's unacceptably broken, and we won't, as a society, accept that brokenness. Alright. Yeah, he just keeps arguing like somehow people don't choose to have kids. And the fact is a decision is made, whether you want to call it choice or not. I don't like the word choice myself. But brains make decisions. Ideas compete with each other. And usually the ideas in competition are selfish notions and true understanding of practical effects. And that's the competition. And we obligate each other to always have in mind social consequences, long-term effects, all of these more important constituencies. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one. These are concepts most people are familiar with. And apparently in Scotland, there's too much lead in the ground for these fuckwits to get it. Alright, and then he brings up that somehow it's all risk that we're making taboo, which is just a straw man bullshit. It's a lie is what it is, because it's been qualified over and over and over. The only risk we're passing judgment on is risk imposed without permission, without consent, and risk that has no redeeming accomplishment beyond satisfying the self-interest of the individual imposing the risk. So that's the qualification. So you can't make this argument that, taken to its extreme, this philosophy means no risk would ever be taken. As it has been illustrated in the analogies, we can accept risk like applying an accelerated speed to get to the scene of a fire for the potential benefit of saving people from burning to death. That the risk of the higher speed is justified by the rescue. You're just too stupid. No commensurate positive potential as realistic expectation. So that's what it comes down to. There is no positive potential as a realistic expectation. The potential is all negative. You might get lucky, have a kid who's extraordinarily beneficial to society and lives a very comfortable life. But that's not a realistic expectation. The realistic expectation is they're subjecting a new individual to a different world than you lived in, who will have a different psychology than you, and who, by statistical demographics, is not likely to live anything close to a perfect life. And you have no right to impose the super negative side of that scale. The 25% who will live a hard, difficult, very unpleasant life have a right not to be fucked with for your selfish ambitions. So stow it, fucker. You're morally culpable, just like Frankenstein, or just like a drunk driver, or just like a speeding motorist. You know the risk, and you have decided you don't give a fuck. And therefore, you fucking suck. That's right. You suck. So goodbye, you fucking useless piece of shit. You'll get no other correspondence from me ever. Because you are a dickless weasel who has no concept of logic, or fair fighting, or human dignity. No concept of even male dignity. You're a coward who has to hide behind photoshopped images. You fucking weasel.